Greetings, sisters. I am Pastor Evita Smith, Senior Pastor and Founder of Kingdom Seekers Community Church in Stockbridge, Georgia. And today I have been tasked with the assignment of discussing 7 items that pastors need in their toolbox. And so when we think about a toolbox, we often think about what we would need to maybe craft that great sermon or what we would need to run the church. But we also have to start thinking bigger and broader as we talk about what it really means to be a pastor. And so on today, I want to give 7 items that I think we should have as pastors in our toolbox. I have been fortunate to be in the senior pastorate for 10 years as of this month. And so there are some things that I started thinking about that I wish people had told me when I entered into the senior pastor role. But I think all of us can benefit from this information on tonight. One of the statistics that I found that was quite interesting, according to research, it said last year approximately 1,500 pastors left the pastorate each month. Not in a year, but 1,500 pastors left the pastorate each month last year. And that was because they started to enter into frustration, into burnout, and all other types of issues that caused them to want to walk away from the ministry. And so tonight, as we look at what it really means to have tools that we can effectively use to be great pastors, I want us to consider just a few things. One thing that we all should have is a good support system. One of the things about being a pastor is very few people understand the role and the responsibility. They think it might be, oh, you just get up and you preach. Oh, you just get up and you care about people. But they don't understand that it can be a very lonely life. And it also can be a life that you have to learn how to get thick skin, because the church members are not going to always be happy. The board is not going to always be happy. You're going to deal with all kinds of issues. And so you need that good support system. Those people who are around you who will, one, tell you the truth, but also those people who will help to encourage you when you feel like you want to quit, when you want to throw in the towel. And sadly, a lot of pastors don't have a support system around them that really helps them to feel like if they get into situations that are stressful or they're dealing with things at the church, that they really can go to, that one, either will tell them the truth, or two, will be there to help encourage them. Something else that we also need to have in our toolbox, number 2, is we need to have a basic understanding of business and finance. Oftentimes we rely upon those who are put into those positions in the church. They may be the finance committee, the chairman of the board, or what have you. But when you get into that senior leader role, that you have to be able to make decisions. You have to know how to look at things, not just from a ministry perspective, not just from creating great sermons or pastoral care, but you also have to understand the business of ministry, that you have to understand the business of running a church, understand the finances and what it really means, from everything from salaries to tithes and offerings, fundraising, all of these things. And so it helps if you have a basic understanding of business and finance. It also helps if you have some entrepreneurial spirit, because some of the things that you will be tasked to do to help the church grow, to help the church thrive, is more on the entrepreneurial thought process. And sometimes people look at that as a bad thing because they see it and they go, oh, well, the church is not a business. But in some capacities, church does run as a business. And if you want a successful business, you have to have these tools to know how to effectively do business. And so we have to know how to operate in the business arena as pastors. So getting that understanding, whether it's taking some courses or if it's just getting some continuing education, getting that business and finance and maybe entrepreneurial teaching will help you to be more effective in the ministry. Something else that pastors need to do is have a good library. Having a good library. And not just your Bible books, your commentaries, your biblical dictionaries, those type things, but also having other books and periodicals. Being able to also have a great understanding of what's going on in the news. And there are some fiction, poetry, different genres of written work that we should be able to consider, so that we can have a well-rounded understanding of being able to communicate, being able to bring up thoughts that connect with the biblical text, being able to connect with people. And so we want to make sure we're well read. And so that starts with having a good library. And so oftentimes I am a book lover. And so I buy books all the time. I buy books on leadership. I buy books on fiction books. I buy books on business. I buy different areas of learning so that I can be well read and well versed. So as I am leading, as I am teaching, as I am help growing leadership, that I have the tools necessary to connect with different people. We have to be able to connect with the people in the pews. We have to be able to connect with the leadership team. We have to be able to connect with the outside world. And it's helpful when we are well read that we can address issues that are going on in our communities, address issues that are going on in the world, because we begin to broaden our understanding, broaden our horizon, and we actually read beyond just the biblical text. But also, as pastors, once again, it can be a stressful job. We take on everything. We are listening to other people's problems if we're doing pastoral care. We are involved with families who may be going through crisis. We have our own personal issues that we may be going through in our own homes because we know that pastors have struggles in their families and they have issues that go on. And so another tool that is helpful is for a pastor to have a therapist. And I know we don't like to talk about going to therapy, but oftentimes it's helpful if we have another person that can provide counsel to us. You may have a pastor, but if you need to go a step further, having a therapist, somebody who is trained in those psychological issues that will be able to listen to the problems that you may be going through, listen to your stresses, help you to figure out ways to combat the stress, figure out ways or strategies to be able to deal with some of the issues that you're facing. And so we have to be open to bringing that on as part of our toolbox. When I was in seminary, one of the things that we always learned was that every pastor needs a pastor, every therapist needs a therapist. Whatever it is that you're doing, you need someone that's outside of you that maybe is in that same profession or something similar that can help you as you navigate these waters. And so I think if we really start to look at pastors going through burnout and experiencing those challenges, that if they have someone that they can go talk to, that they have an independent source, somebody who is not connected to the church, somebody who's not connected to them as a family member, somebody who's outside them, a therapist who they can go and is trained to listen and be able to help draw out the issues, be able to help them to think through the issues, and being able to help them to be better, then I think it makes us better pastors. We're able to serve better. We're able to lead better. We're able to give better because we are taking care of us. And that's one thing that a pastor does not look at is how do we really take care of us? We're so busy taking care of other people that we fail to realize that we need to take care of us as well. And so one of the ways that we can look at that in this 7 things that pastors need in their toolbox is that you might want to think about getting a hobby or an outlet. We talk about burnout so much, and we're seeing pastors leaving the pastorate. We're seeing them burnt out and frustrated. And so one of the ways to get away from that is to have a hobby or an outlet. And sometimes I say that's not something you have in a toolbox, but as a pastor, it's necessary. You need to have a way to unplug for a while. Do something that brings you joy. Do something that you don't have to really be thinking about ministry so that you can enter back in and feel refreshed and feel refueled. And one way through that is hobbies. I like to make jewelry. And so I like to sit down sometimes and make a necklace. I like to read. I like to work out. And so these are things that help me to pull back when I've been giving and doing and serving and I'm just so overwhelmed that I realize that, you know what, I need to take time for me. I need to take time so I can be a better leader, so I can be more in tune with the people, so I can be more present. And so by going doing something that I enjoy, having that outlet, that hobby, sometimes it even helps me think. I get sermons sometimes while I'm working out or while I'm doing something creative or while I'm reading something that brings me joy. It sparks an idea and then that turns into something that I begin to study and then it creates a sermon. But we never know where sometimes we need to pull back so that we can actually be more effective. And so having that hobby, that outlet will be a way that we can do that so that we can be better ready to serve. But also, the last thing I want to bring up as on this list of 7 is that we need to be able to take Sabbath, that we need to be able to understand that we need that time away. I saw a statistic that said 71% of churches have no plans for a pastor to receive a periodic sabbatical. One of the books that I loved reading is called Sabbath, and it talks about that the principle of Sabbath and how the Jewish people make sure that they observe the Sabbath, where there's that day of rest, there's that day where they don't do anything. And so for pastors, it's important to take seasons where they may step away. I have a colleague that I spoke to, and her church has it set up where there's a Sabbath that's taken. And so the pastor is able to take some downtime, and they bring supply pastors in that minister while that pastor is on sabbatical. And so we have to be able to pull away, that we have to be willing to steal away. If Jesus was willing to pull away so that he could have time to be refreshed, have time to commune with the Father, have time to be restored, why can't we? We can't do it all. We cannot keep giving and keep giving and keep giving, and then we get to a place where we burn out. We can't be present and we're frustrated. That's one of the things that we have to make sure that we have in our toolbox, that we're going to make sure that we build in Sabbath. When I started the ministry at Kingdom Seekers, one of the things that I said was every July would be sabbatical. And that's sabbatical for everybody. It's sabbatical for me. It's sabbatical for the ministries. It's a time where people can stop. We spend so much time serving that we don't know how to get served, so that we can have some infilling, where we can go and learn, and we can go and get some good teaching, get some good ministry done, so that we can be better able to serve. And so during that month, we take downtime. And so we have other people who may minister during that time. I'm not preaching during the month of July. And so that's my sabbatical, so that I can be refreshed. Because if you think about 12 months out of the year, you're overwhelmed. You've preached, you've taught, you've done all these things. But where was the rest? Where was the learning? Where was the growing? Where was the time that you allowed yourself to receive while instead of just giving? And so we have to make sure that we take sabbatical, and that is okay, but we have to understand what is it for. And lastly, the last thing that we need to have in our toolbox is an investment in personal development. Whether that's going to leadership classes, or whether that's learning about emotional intelligence, whether that's learning about finance or people skills, whatever it may be, what are you doing to build you up? Build you up as a leader, build you up as a pastor, build you up as someone in the community, build you up as someone that people can trust in pastoral care. That we have to make the investment to learn, to grow. And that starts by us investing in the resources that we need for personal development. It may be books, it may be courses, it may be workshops, whatever the case is. You need to put those into your toolbox. You need to build those into your budget, build those into your year, so that you continue to grow, so that you can help others grow. Because part of our job is to help others grow, and to help them grow holistically. And so if we do these things, if we have the good support system, make sure we have people who surround us, who help tell us the truth, but also help to encourage us. If we have that basic understanding of business and finance, getting that teaching that we need so that we can understand the business side of ministry and pastoring. If we have a hobby or an outlet, so that we have a way to unplug and de-stress, so that we can be better able to serve. If we read and have a great library that expands our understanding, expands our ability to communicate these truths that we learn in the biblical text, but how do we make them applicable in life? It's because we read and we explore how we are seeing them in the marketplace, seeing them in government, seeing them in arts and entertainment, seeing them in the different facets of life, because we read and because we expose ourselves to this information. That we make sure that we get a good therapist or pastor, somebody who we can go to when we find ourselves in those times of challenge, or we are having issues, or where we find our own selves getting in that place of burnout, and we need someone to help us to navigate the waters, so that we can continue to do this job that God has commissioned us to do. But also making the investment in personal development, getting those tools that we need, whether it's in leadership, whether it's in communication, people skills, emotional intelligence, all these different subjects that we need to make sure that we are growing in, so that we can help grow others. But lastly, also understanding that we need Sabbath, that we need a time of rest, that we have to be okay with saying, in this season, I'm taking time out so that I can be refreshed, so that I can be restored, so that I can get quiet and get still, so that I can hear from God and do the work that God has for me to do. These are our 7 tools that we need in our toolbox, so that we can be effective pastors and leaders in the church that God has given us. I hope this 7 tools has been helpful for you. I hope you will make the investment to do these things, so that you can be the best pastor for the place that God has planted you. We all have to do the work. But if we do these things, if we put these tools in our toolbox,